Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 30th episode of Magicians Without Borders Conversations. We are live, and I am so glad that you're here joining us or listening to this later on the podcast. Welcome, everybody. And today, I'm very excited because we're going to have a great conversation with one of my biggest friends. Well, he's one of my smallest friends, but one of my closest friends in all my life, Felipe Costa, El Pollo or Poulet. And we're gonna talk with Tom Verner. We're having some technical issues, but I think everything is fine. Let's see if everything is fine. We'll find out in a little while. So before we start, I just wanted to tell you, as always, that we are on Patreon. So we are always on Patreon. So if you can, go to patreon.com /MWB. That is a way that you can support us, a new way that you can support us. This is a way that you can support us, but for a low monthly fee, starting at $3, and you'll get some special rewards because you are one of our patrons. We will have stuff exclusive for you. So please go check out patreon.com /MWB to check it out. A new way to support us. That's different than the custom donations. And as always, I want to remind you that the last Wednesday of every month, we have our mailbag episode, meaning that if you have questions, we want to hear about them. So please email or comment at our email, podcast@magicianswithoutborders.com, or you can tweet them at magicianswb, and we will bring them here on the show. And if you want to ask us a question live here, you're also welcome to join us. So send us a message and we'll be sure to bring you on. And also, before we start, I want to remind you guys of our corporate magic services. So corporate magic for virtual events. We've been having a blast doing this for multiple Google teams and other tech firms like Bunny Studio or Torre. It's a great way to engage your remote team because we know how challenging it is to be always on the screen all the time with your team. So this is a great way to enhance the well-being of your remote workers. So you have a remote team. This is a great way to connect with them and create some well-being. So we do it in an environment like this. So let me show you a little bit of a description of how it goes. Hello, my name is Carlos López from Magicians Without Borders, and this is where we create our virtual magic show. We would love to have you. We have multiple cameras where we can see magic different ways, even one for close-up. Let me take you there, and here you can see magic that's going to happen very, very close in front of your screen, and we would love to have you here with us. We've done this show over the last year for great companies like Waymo, YouTube, Google, and we would love to have you. We can deliver this show via Zoom, via Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, or WebEx, or any other communication platform. Looking forward to seeing you at the show. Bye-bye. Great. So remember, that's a good way also to support us because on that show, we bring on our kids from the slums, especially the kids from Colombia. So if you have if you work remote in a company and you want to support us, this is a great way to do so. So let's see if this is working. Let's bring on Tom Verner. How are you, Tom? You're there.
I'm good. I was having some trouble. My camera wasn't coming on for some reason, but I shut it down. It came back. It was all good. All good.
Awesome. That's that's the engineer's solution. You shut everything off and turn it on again.
I don't. Why does that work like that, Carlos?
You have to go and study a bunch of years of engineering to figure that out.
That's like banging it, hitting.
Exactly. It's the equivalent of banging a machine. Yeah. How are you, Tom? How are your vacations over there in Florida?
I'm having really a wonderful time. It's very cold in Vermont, and here it's sunny, and we're on the ocean, and we're here for about a little more than another week. And then we go back to Vermont, which will be wonderful, but it's good being here also. So, and I did a magic show last night. There's people, a bunch of kids came next door, and I set up on our little porch here, and they all sat out in the sand, and I did a show, and we're going to talk about performing for children tonight. So it was perfect preparation for the show tonight.
Great segue. Great segue. So let's just get into it. You've always said that the performing for kids, it's one of the most underrated forms of magic, but also one of the hardest. So can you elaborate a little bit more on your thoughts on it?
I don't know. I think I don't know why I thought this, but you look at what magic is released, by Murphy's or Penguin or any of those magic distributors. It seems like 75% of them are card tricks. And like one of the number one rules about doing magic for kids is you don't do card tricks. That's not always true, and I'd love to talk about that tonight, actually. But I don't know. I think I would really love to talk to Pollo about that also, but I just have a feeling that I think what you said is really true. Like performing for children can be really difficult. And yet I find it so rewarding. They feed the performer in such wonderful ways with the things they say. And if you can, I think it was W.C. Fields said, never work with children or animals. And I think what he meant was you never knew what they were going to do. They don't behave in the same way as adults. They'll just say things. And that in terms of dancing with them and figuring out how to respond. So I don't have a really great answer, but I do have a feeling that performing for children among a certain group of magicians, it doesn't feel like real magic. It's just children's magic.
It might be like a little stigma or a little, not very well appreciated. But I agree with you. It's one of the hardest things to do it well, because you can go and stand up on a stage and do some tricks for kids. You can definitely do that, but really entertain them and be a world-class entertainer, I think that's very, very, very hard to do. And I want to share a story before we bring on Pollo, because I do think that performing for kids in different with different backgrounds, it's completely different. For example, performing for a fancy birthday party is way different than performing in the slums for kids or in an orphanage. I think it's very different, even though you can do the same tricks and some of the stuff that you do on one, or most of the stuff that you do on one will work on the other one. But when you do a performance with kids, you know how they get so excited that this is happening, so they wanna, their energy builds up. And I remember once I was with another magician from here, from Colombia, called Sebastian Agudelo, and we were in a very a remote part of Bogota, like similar to the ones that you've been at, and we were in this orphanage with a bunch of kids that have never seen magic before. And I remember after Sebastian was done, he'd had a very classical children's magic hat. So a lot of flowers popping up, he had doves, he had what else? He had a lot of handkerchiefs, a lot of appearing canes. So very visual strong, right? So the kids just wanted to grab everything, right? And as soon as we're done, we said, okay. Right. He said, okay, you Baba. He did his little his little thank you for being here, right? And then all the kids stood up and said, hey. They wanted to hug him, but they went for the props, right? They were like, they started grabbing the props, and it was just such a chaotic environment. It was such a chaotic environment. I remember him and I going crazy, like, hey, what do we do? And it was hard to bring calm after that, but it was a great experience nonetheless.
That's interesting. You should say that, Carlos. When I just what inspired, the starting of Magicians Without Borders, which the story I've told many times. After those shows, and came up and wanted to, look at my props. They had never seen anything like that. And while I was setting up and afterwards, back from that, I told my wife, Janet, about that. And I said, do you think you could be a clown or something? And while I'm setting up, you could entertain the kids so they won't bother the props. And afterwards, when I finish, could you do that? And she said yes. And that's how her character came into being, just to help those two moments when kids would come up afterwards or beforehand. So that's interesting.
Very good.
That is a problem after kids shows. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a rush of energy and curiosity that if it's not taken care of, it can go astray as it did with me and Sebastian. But well, we've got a great guest. He is a world-renowned kids magician. He goes to Europe when you can safely travel. He will do that again, and he has some great stories, and he has a great lecture on magic for kids, and he's been all over the world. He trained in Argentina, in Spain, and he's performed all over Europe, the States, and a bunch of countries, and over here in Colombia in his main house. So his name is Felipe Costa. He's a magical storytelling magician, wonderful magician. So let's welcome him. Hello, Bojo. How are you?
Hey everyone, how are you doing? Are you listening?
Very well.
Yes, we hear you. So nice to have you here.
Yay!
It's
Tom,
so
I'm
good
so
to
happy.
see you, Polly.
I'm always happy to see you, Tom. I'm glad you're in
It's
Florida so
wonderful.
we can get some. Sorry, I had to say.
Yeah.
So
And I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts and ideas about performing for children.
oh my
Yes,
God,
that's going to be awesome. So before we get into that, because we want to pick your brain, Bojo, about your thoughts about performing with children, with kids, or for kids, for children. How about you give us a little bit of a background about yourself and what are you up to now, and then we'll get about into kids magic. So just give us a little bit of an introduction. Who are you and what are you up to now?
well, my name is Felipe Costa, but my mom she put as a nickname Pollo when I was 15, and after that nothing was the same for me. I didn't decided to be a pollo because I was a magician. I was pollo before I was a magician, and it is actually really important for this, and you'll see why later. Uh, and since a year ago, because we're celebrating 1 year of this surreal situation, I have been doing virtual magic shows and virtual magic workshops, also for kids and companies. So it has been quite an interesting path. And I think one of the most important things that we have discovered through this year is that we can actually get magic through the screen. It works. I mean, people can get uh, surprised, and that's really important. That's something we actually have never thought before. We thought that we needed to have the spectator's hand right next to us to make them surprise, you know, and it's not like that. So I think this has been one of the hardest years ever in life of all of us. But at the same time, I think We have discovered a pot of gold. I can tell that.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
We're just starting to discover it, but I do think that things are going to be better and get into what life is going to be through virtual and real life shows. Are going to be what is this is going to happen for a long time, so we are actually preparing for
Yeah.
what is going to come.
I agree. I agree. I think this is something that opened up, and that we're just getting into it, and this is here to stay, I guess. So, but before we move on, I just want to put on a little trailer of what you do, because I think it's a very cool thing, and it really does portray what Pojo is about. So here is his magic video reel.
Pero ¿cómo? Pero ¿cómo lo transformaste? No puedo.
Aprender el efecto que acabamos de hacer.
Sí. Yo sí. Ay, se volvió Ay, ese es mágico.
Pero la única carta que tiene un disparo hecho por todos ustedes es el 4 de tréboles. El 7 está intacto.
Es lo más increíble que he visto esta semana y el mes pasado y el antepasado. Y también
Fufu.
¡Eso! Bien, Martina.
Mago Pollo, buenas tardes, muchísimas gracias, la pasamos súper rico en la celebración, el show estuvo súper chévere, los niños aprendieron muchas cosas de magia.
Adiós, pollo. Chao, muchas gracias.
Perfect. That was wonderful. I think it's so cool that kids have the same strong reaction either virtually or in person. I think that's a great discovery that
Yeah.
we as you said, Pollo, we don't need them right beside us just to get a good reaction. They get a good reaction regardless.
And I think that's part of the things we have to work on now. About what Tom was saying before with his wife. I think we well, I don't know where to start when we talk about magic for children, but I always say that the best thing that you can do when you perform for children is that you have to be one of them.
Mhm.
One of the things that I have discovered through these years is that children already live in an authority world, right? They are already there. So they have teachers, they have parents, they have bigger brothers or sisters, but there's never somebody who is at the same level of them. And I learned that when I was working at the restaurant. Carlos knows that I work in a restaurant as a children entertainer for more than 9 or 10 years. That was a long time. It was I think that was the biggest school that I could possibly have. Um, it was amazing because I was having each weekend more than 300 kids coming and going, and I was playing with them. But I love sociology. I do love it. So I start watching children. How do they behave? And how they behave with their parents, how they behave when their parents are gone. And I start watching that it would be cool if I could be somebody at their level. I don't need to be authoritarian. I don't have to, and I don't want to. You
Mhm.
know, and I think that's one of the things that have been more rewarding about my work, um, because I just want to play with them and to play along. And of course, the problem would be, okay, but what happens when they want to, cross that line, right? Because even though they need authority in some point, because if you don't do it, they will grab your things like what happens with Carlos and Mago Sam, and we don't want that. So there's a lot of little tricks that we can learn how to do to avoid these type of situations. So, for example, I bought a little black box that it's foldable, you know. So every trick that I was finishing, it goes to the box right away. It goes to the box. It goes to the box. So as soon as the show is finished, I just grab the box and I got away with it.
Yeah.
So they cannot approach and get curious, because I mean, I think as a kid performer, we have a lot of work to do, because if we are the first magicians, a lot of kids are going to see. That means it depends on our work. It relies on us
Yeah.
that the kids will love magic or not.
Mhm.
That is the truth. We all know that, for example, we have seen kids that saw a big magician or a great magician, and after that they just wanted to know how did he do it, and they want to get a magic box, and you know the process that start after that. So if the kid is not dazzled, the kid is not surprised, he will be like, "No, yeah, it was nice, but I saw how did he, I didn't, um and I
Yeah,
think that's
if
what
they,
worked
they
with.
figure it out, if they figure it out, they kind of lose if they lose the illusion right there in the first experience. They're like, yeah, this is not cool, and
Yeah,
they just,
yeah, 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 yeah.
I think what you said, Oyo, is so important. This is our 30th show, and I don't know how many magicians we've talked to this past year. And one of the questions Carlos almost always asks, that how did you get into magic? And almost all of them say, I saw a magician perform.
Exactly.
yeah.
And it made me want to learn how. There's a difference, when kids come up to you after a show and they say, how did you do that trick? That's the question most kids answer.
Yeah,
Every now and then someone comes up and says, I want to do that, which is very different than how did you do it?
yeah,
I want to do it. I want to be a magician. And that's a big responsibility you're talking about, Pollo, that we might turn them off or we might turn them on to
yeah.
magic.
So it's a seed. It is a
It's
seed,
big, very
and it
big.
is what I found beautiful about magic is that seed can be either on children or also in adults, and we have seen that too.
Yeah,
And that's for me, one of the most beautiful things of magic is that magic is for everyone.
right.
We have even seen dogs, reacting to magic.
Right.
We
Exactly.
have seen it.
Yeah.
We have seen babies, children, um, teenagers, adults, and all people, and everybody. Magic is beautiful because of that.
Yeah.
And I do think that is where we have to understand our responsibility as performers.
Yeah. Another thing, Another thing that you said, Pollo, is that we need to figure out a way, whether it's a black box or whether it's our suitcase or whatever it is, that when we're doing children's shows, we put the things away so that when the show is over, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But not just so that the kids won't bother them, but the kids really want to talk to you. They want to touch you. They want to feel the magic somehow. And if you're busy packing up and getting you can't be there with the kids after the show.
Yeah.
I agree. I totally agree with that. Yeah, because after the show, they want to see, they want to feel, they want to, they want to interact. They want to, yes,
it's almost magical. They think if they touch you, they'll get some of the magic or something.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that happens everywhere. I think that happens everywhere. And I wanted to get into that a little bit more with Felipe, with Pollo, about that. Like, I think it was. I mean, you went a little bit through it, but not in detail. What do you think that you learned in that wonderful experience of being in a restaurant that's full of kids? Because that restaurant has a big, huge, place for kids where they have a little mini soccer field. They have some little table tennis kind of thing. They have a little climbing wall. They have so many things. What did you learn from that environment that you applied in this one, like in a stage show for your performance?
I think one of the most important things that I've learned was how to talk to each age in the way they need it. And that picture that you showed, that was actually
Todo
really
empezó en una rueda hace varios años.
because that was in Spain. So kids in different countries, in general, kids are always the same, and that's beautiful. I don't know how, but in general, they're the same. Even though the cultural and the society are different or the language is different, in general, kids react to magic the same way, and that's something I think is actually sociologically. I think this is really important because that means we are all the same until something just start to break our lines through different paths and behaviors in general. So in the restaurant, I saw how 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 6, 7, they behave, and for example, how much of attention they wanted. They want attention. So yeah, I could be the magician, but I don't
Todo
want to
empezó en
be.
una rueda.
I don't want to be the center of the party. He is the center of the party. They are the center of the party. They are the main. They're the main event. So for example, what I do, some of the things that I do before the world was over, is I like to be a little bit before, like maybe 1 hour, 30 minutes earlier to the show. I set up my show, and I walk around the kids, and I start asking their names. What's your name? Pablo, what's your name? Mateo, what's your name? La. So when I start the show, I know them, and I talk to them by name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that has been one of my, I want to say signatures, because that was one of the things that helped me a lot to get more work, because I got calls about parents saying, I love your show, it was great, but I still cannot believe that you remember 25 kids' names. How did you do that? And parents love that, because it says, I'm saying you are important for me. Yes, it's like I can have a lot of kids, and I can say, hey, you, yes, you come, yes, you, it's fine, you. And it works, it's fine. But if I talk to each one, or of course, if it's a lot of kids, I try to remember some of their names before the show, and I can call them when I start the show, and that makes a difference. Because
totally.
we're giving an importance to them.
And
Yeah.
it's also a subtle way of authority. Like when you say, "Hey, you," it's very different to "Hey, Camilo," right? Or "Hey, Felipe." It's very different. They feel it very different, and it's a subtle way of saying, "Hey, I know who you are. I see you," right? And that's very important. I think that's very important.
And I've done
And
it. And I've done
yeah,
it. If they're
yeah,
misbehaving, I say, Carlos, what are you doing? And he's like, he
exactly.
knows my name. I can't do anything. I have a beautiful story. I was doing a first communion a couple of years ago. I was in a club, in a super fancy club, and I managed to memorize every guest name. Okay, it was
Nice.
like 50 people, but I did it. So I sat with the little girl, that the first communion little girl, and I sat with her for 20 minutes, and I start, well, in that table, is that your grandmother? That, and she's like, that's my grandmother best friend. That's la 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 la. That's my dad's. That's our neighbor. That's yada yada. Okay. So when I started the show, and take a look at this, I tell this story in my conference, in my lecture, because it
Todo
was
empezó en
really
una
interesting.
rueda hace varios.
So uh, I started the show, and all the grown-ups were talking to each other and having a drink, and nobody was paying attention to me. And I had the kids. I had 10, 12 kids in front of me, and all the grown-ups were just blah 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 blah. And I got the microphone and I started, uh, Grandma Nana, are you ready for the show? And she was like, that's my name. And then, oh, I know you're talking to Juana. Juana, are you ready for the show? Oh, Carlos and Ricardo, are you ready? Or are you still talking about high school? And I did it. And I started the show saying everybody's name. That
Very
was my
cool.
first thing on the show. And I started, Mariana, Lucrecia, la 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 la. I finished the show naming the kids, and that was just the point of start of the show. And when I finished, the first thing they did, they applauded. They were like, how did you do it? And I said, that was just my first trick. And
Pretty cool.
it was beautiful. And it was beautiful also because when I talked to the grown-ups by their names, they couldn't stay there and not see the show,
Right.
because that would be
course.
disrespectful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Great.
That would be disrespectful. So if I talk to you with your name, there is no way that you're going to turn around. You're going to say, he knows my name, I have to listen to him.
Right.
I've
Yeah, I think
I've never had that experience of being able to call everyone by name before the show began. But I know that I have an amazing memory for children's names during a show. And parents, like you said, Pollo, have said that. It's amazing how you remembered all the kids' names. And that's not true outside of a performance. My memory is not that great for names, but I've always wondered what it is, during a show. And I think part of it is, I don't know what your sense is that when I'm doing a show, I'm not thinking about anything else. If Juan tells me his name, I'm not thinking about anything else but that totally present moment. And I remember his name. Because my mom used to say to me, she said, she was talking about herself. She said, I used to think I could never remember people's names. She said, it's not that I couldn't remember them. I never knew them to begin with, because when they told me their name, I was thinking, oh, what a pretty dress. Well, look at her hair. And they're telling me their name, and I'm not paying any attention. But during a show, I'm totally paying attention.
Yeah.
Unlike inordinary life sometimes. Does that make sense?
It
Yeah,
makes a lot
that
of sense.
for me makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing my lecture in the north of Spain. After I did a couple of shows, it was a magic festival in a town in a little city called Sarria. And I remember I got to my lecture, and it was great. I got to my lecture, and a lot of big magicians got to see my lecture, like Miguel Angel Gea and Daniela Ortiz. And I was like, oh my god, what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do. I don't know what to say. I don't know. And all of them, a lot of people were there, and they say, "We're here to know how did you manage to learn the kid's name? We just want to know that basically." And everything, all that I say about that was like, we have to get interest in our audiences. We owe to the audience. So how uh, my question would be, why why do we wait? I want to check on something here. Oh, wait.
Oh, this is going
Oh,
to.
wait. Yes, yes, way better.
So can we start all over again?
Yes. Okay.
So sorry.
And
I
our
just got a
guest
message.
tonight.
I just got a message. Hey, you're not listening very good, and then I said I didn't why. So what I was saying is, I think we have to. We do. We have to. We owe to our audiences. Pay more attention to them. Have you seen, for example, in improv, how they look about everything that is happening, so they use those little things, to create things around the show? I think for magic is the same, and I think that that's part of the reason that I can connect with the next idea, that it is, we have to study more than magic. Carlos and I, we have a circus beautiful background, and we have had basically the same path. Okay, we love magic in different ways, but we love magic, and we love each other. We have been friends for a long time, and it has been, I think it's one of the most beautiful gifts that I think I have in my present, and Carlos knows that. Because we have enjoy our paths together, and we have seen each other growing, in doing magic and doing circus, or traveling, or making little kids progress a lot, like Tamara. And so in our background, we have studied clown, and we have studied balloon figures, and we have studied a lot of things that actually really connect with what is to be on stage with children. We need a lot of tools to play with the children. We need a lot of tools, and I think clown is one of the most important thing to play with children, because we have the prop. Okay, we have the prop. Magic is about props, and it's fine. Okay, but it's about what you do with the prop, what the kid will always remember. So when I do, for example, the Steve rope, I have this story about a flea that jumps from head to a flea. No, sorry, flea. Yeah, that jumps from head to head. And I search in a little girl's, and I mess all her hair trying to find a flea. And at the beginning of that trick, Tom, I say, I have to find Sanson. Sanson is the name of my flea. So I try to find it, and I mess I look up the longest hair between the girls, so I mess it up, and everybody laughs. And at the beginning of the trick, they say, I grab the flea, and they say, there's nothing there. Okay? There's nothing there. And I said, yeah, it's just a little flea. It's too tiny that you cannot see it. So I start the show. I do the flea jumps to the rope. It holds the rope, and then I have the Steve rope here, and I make the flea jumps to my hand. Right? I say, Sanson, jump to my hand, and he jumps. And when the flea's here, I say, an applause to Sanson. Oh, that is beautiful, and I still clap. And then somebody, in some point, goes, hey, you just killed the freaking flea. And most of the times is the kid that at the beginning of the trick said, there is nothing in your hand.
Yeah.
And I think that is really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Because that means that we're playing with their imagination, with their creativity, and it's our job to make that process in their minds. And we have to believe that the things are also happening in our hands. I think one of the biggest problems among kids magicians is that they play as a role, like as actors, but they don't believe, like they don't suffer. So when I clap and somebody says, you killed the flea, why did you kill the flea? And I'm like, oh no, and I start crying, oh my God, this is not possible, I killed the flea. And everybody's like, oh, you're so stupid, you killed the flea, what are you thinking, you stupid little, huh? And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm going to give chicken flea mouth to mouth, chicken flea mouth to mouth. And I'm like, ew, a flea here. And I said, Sanson, are you okay? Yes. And I said, oh, he's okay. And take a look at this. When I go to the girl and I say, can I put it again in your head? She's like, no, I don't want that in my hair. And it is amazing. It is amazing how this works on kids' minds.
That's great.
And I've seen adults reacting to that situation like little kids.
Yeah.
Because if we create the environment, they will get into the story.
Yeah. I think what you said in the beginning is so much part of why your act and why if a children's magician's act works, the reason it works is what you said. You meet them as where they are. You become a child.
Yeah.
And you don't look down on them. You're not acting. You have a child inside of you. And it comes out, and that's who does the show, the child inside of you. Of course, you're also a magician and you know what you're doing, but at the same time, you're really a child. I think a word you used is, I think when I'm doing a children's show, if it's going really well, I'm not performing, I'm playing.
Yeah.
And
they will be more grateful about that.
Yeah, but when you're getting that sense about playing, I think you not only enjoy it more, but you allow the kids to enjoy it more. And what I mean by that is that sometimes at some shows, especially in particular situations where similar to the ones we perform at, refugee camps or in impoverished areas or in orphanages, the kids are not allowing themselves to enjoy the show. Yeah. And when you are on stage and you're enjoying it, and then maybe you find one kid that's really enjoying it and you play off of that, it's contagious and everyone starts getting into it. But you have to enjoy it, and like you said, you become a kid again and just live it, believe it, and then it spreads. It's contagious, and we've seen that with Pollo in so many shows that we've done. Then we start doing it, and the crowd, the kids are a little bit passive, but midway through the show, it's just a big huge festival of smiles and chaos.
So
I think also when you were talking, Pollo, this sounds so simple, but I think you really like children.
Yeah.
I really like kids. Some of them can be a problem or whatever, but so can some adults. you know. But
Uh-huh.
generally, I really enjoy being with kids. You know?
Yeah. I love. There's a lot of things that I love from children. One of them is their energy.
Yeah.
So when I finish a kids show, when I end up a kids show, I end up really really tired because I have seen this as a battle of energies. It
Yeah.
is a battle of energies.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
of course there are two energies, and our work is that those energies flow together. But even though if they flow together, it's a powerful energy because
Yeah.
it's one versus 10, 15, 20, 1,000, because we have had stuff like that. So the performers work in general, that could be also in general, is really strong. But a children, we know that children are more energetic. They can't control their energy. They can't. That's why our work is so much more complicated.
Yeah.
If people are adults, if our audience is made of adults, it's completely different. They know, they're
Yeah.
grown. They know how to control their energy, their emotions. But no children. If they're excited, they want to vibrate so much more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you don't know how to play with that, it's an explosion.
Yeah. A
Okay.
really perfect children's show is when they're almost totally out of control with laughter and whatever, and then you can get their attention and the whole group gets quiet.
Yeah.
That's really amazing when you can do that, when an audience is able to go from that wild, exuberant, almost out of control laughter and enjoyment, and then, hey, listen, I want to tell you something, and all of them get really quiet.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
And that's great
I
because
think that's
also,
a great show, but
yeah.
but it's hard to manage. I mean, when
Oh.
you're starting, it's easier said than done. I mean, when you're starting, and you don't have the as we say here, the kilometers of experience. It takes a toll. Maybe you do lose control, right? So
oh,
you get repetitions and repetitions and repetitions, and
I
you,
certainly have had shows where I had lost it, and some, but
I lost it last Saturday. I
yeah,
lost it last Saturday. I did I did a live show, and I wanted to jump from the window. I'm sorry, but I have to tell you that too.
yeah,
I really wanted to jump. It was terrible because everybody was with a mask,
yeah,
for example. That's
yeah.
another chapter because that's another. But it's
Yeah.
like I felt like. Do you remember Snoopy's teacher? And the kids were like, "What? I just want to." It's like, and the kids were like, it was terrible. It was terrible. And I think the mask was not helping at all.
Yeah.
So I think we have to create something that let us work live. I do think that. I've been thinking about that these past few days. I don't know, maybe un biombo. I don't know how to say that mentor right now. I just
like a little transparent, little wolf kind of thing. Or,
yeah.
you-
So, and with a little door for the kids, why not? You know, that let us be ourselves in stage, because the mask, it is terrible. If you're a clown, well, you know, for Jack Lecoq, and you know that Tom, and like he talks about the mask, so you can do everything with your eyes. That's one of, I think that has been one of the most difficult works, theater exercises that I have done ever, because I am my face. Okay, I have these chubby cheeks and my forehead and whatever, and then when I did that when I was in Paris, I did a workshop in Lecoq for 5 days. It was beautiful, and they put a mask on me, the worm mask, if I can remember that in English, and I had to say everything with my body and my eyes. And then I realized how important it was for me to talk with my face. How do you do surprise, scared, or happy, and how do you do that from here? And now take a look of what is happening with face mask right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that has to be helpful right now. But then we have to talk, and with the mask, it is really, really difficult. I just thought about the Snoopy reference, and I was like, and the kids were listening really good and I had a microphone, by the way. I had a microphone because I didn't want it to. And then the mask came up to my ears because I was opening my mouth. That was terrible.
Of course.
That sucks. That sucks so much. And it was an experience, and I think it's one of the things that we have to learn right now, because we have to work if we want to continue doing magic. If somebody calls and say, I want the show live, we have to do it live. But I think that's really important. I wanted to talk about something really quick about everything that we have been talking, because yesterday I had a conversation with Tamara. We had a Zoom talk with Tamara, and I was teaching her a trick, a card trick, by the way, that I do for kids. It was the homing card. You know that, Tom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you really quick, because this is mentor. Those are mentor cards, because I made it for him. I found it mentor. I'm just going to do it really quick, and it's an exercise where I have 5 red cards, and here, oh no, I messed up it already. I wasn't ready to perform. So I was teaching Tamara this trick because I gave it to her students. Okay. So the trick is the point is this. I say I have here 5 red cards, and I wait for the children to say no. There's 1 black. Okay, and I just want to stop here. And I wanted to explain Tamara. Okay, our main character from Magicians Without Borders in Colombia. Why was I doing this? Okay, and I said, I've been working on my character on stage for the last few years, and I have discovered that I am clumsy. I don't want to be, even though I'm a juggler, I don't want to look skillful. I prefer to look clumsy. Why? Because I think that works beautifully with kids. Okay, I don't want to be, hey, I have the card here, and if I just disappear the card, I'm going to, maybe that will dazzle them, but that's not my type of, that's not the way I could connect with kids. For me, it is easier to connect with them, telling them that I'm making mistakes. Why? Because I don't think there's more interactive. There is more an interactive situation than that, because they have to react on what is happening when I am making a mistake. But then I explained to Tamara that is one of the ways that you can do this trick. And then we were talking about what else can we do with the same trick. So I said, what if you have 1 kid with a magic wand, and every time that kid touches the cards, 1 card immediately becomes black. And she was like, oh, I haven't think about that before. Yeah. And now that I'm teaching magic for grown-ups, I talk about something that is called the detonant. Okay? The detonant? Yeah, the detonant. Which means magic has to happen. Yes, magic has to happen with something. It could be a magic word, it could be a magic wand, it could be the magic dust, it could be so many things. But if this doesn't happen, if we don't use the magic wand, the magic is not going to work. And I think that's important to give the magic, to make it magical. If I don't say abracadabra, the magic doesn't happen. It makes sense. And I was trying to teach Tamara that yesterday. Like I want them to understand the logic behind the illogic.
Yeah.
Nice. Interesting, Pollo. Yeah, anything you want to add to that, Tom?
I just wanted to say that one of the roots of the word abracadabra in ancient Hebrew is I say it and it happens. It's the magic word that makes it happen. Like the power of the word somehow. Hocus pocus or abracadabra or ooh or whatever. And the wand is that could be a whole program. Like why? I know we can use wands for misdirection and all, but there's something else going on. I think energy comes through the wand from somewhere beyond us.
Exactly.
I think that's pretty cool. We've touched on so many subjects that we could, spend an hour on this, but unfortunately, we need to, bring this to a close. So I wanna ask Pollo two things, but before you answer them, I'm gonna show a little tiny video of you doing magic, a little clownish routine with some kids in a if I am not mistaken, in a refugee camp. But I wanted to ask you, because you've had so much experience doing magic from kids of many different and diverse backgrounds. I wanted to ask you, do you feel that there's a difference between doing magic for them, like for impoverished kids in refugee camps and wealthy kids? Do you think there's a difference? And what do you think works great across all of them? What do you think works great across all of them? And you're going to answer that as soon as after we see this nice little quirky video. Have a look.
¿Oyen algo? No, a la 1, a las 2 y a las 3.
That's the perfect example of the abracadabra, right? Of that detonation moment. Nothing happens, then foo and boom. And I think that routine is wonderful. Right? I think we picked that up from Jeff McBride, if I am not mistaken. He loved to work with those squeaky little thingies.
Yeah.
But anyway, Pollo, what do you think about what the questions I asked? Do you think there's a difference? If there is, how so? And what do you think works great across all of them?
In general, you have to check the magic knowledge of your audience. And when I mean that, we have been in refugees in the refugees camp or under like really complicated neighborhoods when they know a lot about magic, right? That when I went to the South Pacific of Colombia, to a region called El Chocó. Okay, so I did 10 shows in 4 days for ACNUR, which is one of the UN foundations, like one of the branches. And that was in a really dangerous neighborhood where we couldn't, like, we had to go there with somebody from the neighborhood, or either we might not go back. You understand that? Like,
yeah,
it was that dangerous. That's one thing. Why? Because that means the access nowadays, the access for people about magic, for the access for everyone to the technologies have opened a lot of the opportunities for everybody to know more about magic. You can just get on YouTube and see magic, either David Copperfield, either mentor y pollo. It doesn't matter. The point is they can't see it. So now most of the children, they have a little bit of knowledge about magic. They know what is magic. Okay, but at the same time, in that trip, they took me to an indigenous. How do you say it, mentor? Indigenous. What? Indigenous. We went to an indigenous island in the middle of nowhere, okay, where nobody but 2 little kids or 3 little kids spoke Spanish. Okay. So they spoke a language that nobody knows called Embera. So I learned really quick how to say, "Hey, my name is Pollo," in Embera. And I remembered Pollo in Embera is Eterre. So Samaraka Eterre was my name is Pollo. But the point is, I couldn't speak to them literally for a whole show. It doesn't matter what I do. So I think that experience comes to this point really good. Why? Because I had to go to my toolbox and work on my clown. And work on all my clown. How I am going to transmit what I want. How can I say to a kid that doesn't speak Spanish and that doesn't know anything about magic, because I'm talking about an island in the middle of nowhere between a river, okay? Their concept about magic is black magic. Okay? We have seen that before. So I started the show explaining that what I do is white magic. Not that but you know what I'm trying to say. So the first thing that I do is I explain the thumb trick. I explain it, and it's fine. So I say I'm a magician, and what I do has an explanation. It is just that I'm not going to say it to you. It's like this, and I explain, and I say I can't. I do this, and the kids are like, "Wow!" And then I explain it, and it's fine, because it is important to them. It is important for me that they understand that what I'm doing is not metaphysic. It's not, okay? It has an explanation, but it's going to be beautiful. And from that point of start, we can create our language. We can create our communication, okay? Because they have never seen it, okay? That's one thing. And the other one is, so to respond to your question, Mentor, I think we need these different tools to connect with different children, and we need to know. We can know that with 2 questions. Starting the show. How much magic do they know?
How exposed they've been to magic. I think that's
exactly. And from that we know. Yeah. From that we know. No. From that point of start, we can figure it out. How professional, we need to be.
Okay, got it. What do you think? There's something like a gag, something that works perfectly all through, like with any children's audience?
No, I will say the squeaky. The squeaky is wonderful. The squeaky is wonderful. The squeaky is something you cannot see it. It fits in your pocket. And also, I think I will say the squeaky and the sponges. Sponges are beautiful. Sponges are beautiful because magic that happens in the hand of the spectator is the best. There is nothing we can do. It's the best. If the magic happens to the spectator or in this, for example, I say, if we say fufu, his belly is going to work. So they say fufu and it works. So what I like about that? I'm not doing the magic. They are doing the magic. They have the power to make somebody's belly sound. Not me. Not me. I don't care, and I don't want to. Okay. If they say fufu, it works. If they don't say fufu, it doesn't work. So the power is on them. the semiotics behind the trick is beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, it's very powerful. It's very powerful and very empowering as well, and very engaging also because they become an essential part of it, and they have to be there in order for it to work. So unfortunately, we need to wrap this up. So Pollo, one very quick answer to this question:
Sorry, my bad.
what would you like to have known when you started doing magic for kids that you do now? Like, what do you know now that you would like to have known when you started? One thing.
To play more. To play more. Because when we're magicians, we work more. Our head is more working about dazzling the audience than playing.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful coming from you, because this is a guy that's usually playing every time, like you are here, and I appreciate that from you, Pollo, a lot, because you're very playful, and hearing you say that, it's very eye opening. We all need to play more. So hey, I think that's a wonderful way to wrap it up. Anything you want to add, Tom, to this before we go?
I think that word play probably sums it all up, and also it doesn't have to be fancy magic, you can do 5 minutes or 10 minutes with a rigid rope, with a stiff rope, and it can be scary, it can be funny, but it can be alive, and it's impossible for a piece of rope to stand up. That's magic right there. And then it falls down, and you want it to stand up, and you can't get it to stand up, and it won't stand up. And a little kid comes over and waves, and it stands up, and they have the power. You can do so much. It's playing and being simple, I think.
And I think one of the most beautiful things that kid magic ask from us is we need to keep up being children. Our imagination has to keep up so we can play along with them.
Yeah,
and that's it.
You know what? I know we have to end, but I was just thinking sophisticated magicians, Cardini, with his top hat and his tails and all of that, played all the time. He was playing at being sophisticated, but things kept going wrong. And anyhow, we could go on and on for another couple hours.
I know.
It's been wonderful being here with you both. Tom, thank you for being here. Pollo, thank you for being here. We have to, wrap this up, but it's amazing to talk to you guys as always. So everybody, remember, if you want us to answer some questions, send them over at podcast@magicianswithoutborders.com or tweet them at magicianswb, and we'll see you next week. Everybody, bye-bye. Ciao, Pollo.
Bye. Bye, Tom.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Pollo. This is on you. Bye-bye.